Hello and welcome back to the Heroes of the Storm Fall Regional here for North America as we are getting into our fourth series of the day, of course. It will be down towards the lower half of the bracket here in Group A, and it will be Astral Authority going up against Denial eSports. As we've already seen, Naventic advance on Dunk. We didn't get to hear from you during all of that, but Naventic looking strong.
Yeah, Naventic looked really excellent in that set. I mean, we saw Denial had a lot of trouble with Murlocs. Murlocs beat them pretty handily. They exploited their drafts well, played around that. And then Murlocs went into the Naventic matchup, and it looked like they didn't really know what was going on compared to Naventic. Naventic just played super standard, drafted really solid, and it seemed like Murlocs couldn't get a foothold, right? So they're going to go back to the decider match and play the winner of Denial versus Astral. So it's going to be tough, man. I mean, Murlocs looked really good against Denial, so hopefully we get to see another good match there.
And then, of course, on the couch, we are joined by our Khaleesi of Heroes of the Storm, our Queen of Fey Dragons. It is Miss Gillyweed. You were able to cast Denial, actually, up on the stage for their first game. We came in with a lot of expectations for them, but in their first series, they didn't quite prove those correct. What are you expecting from them here?
What I'm hoping from them is that they don't get too in their heads about it. They do have a lot of people, veterans in the scene, looking at K1 Pro, looking at King Caffeine, even Glaurung. But once they started to get behind, that's where a lot of the mistakes started to come out, especially in that first game, where they were closer together to Murlocs until that point. And I hope that if nerves are a factor, we know Prismaticism has shown that he's had some nerves, tournament jitters in the past. I hope that they went back, had a pep talk, and that they've got their heads in the game now.
Right. And also, I mean, on the other side of that, going into our match coming up very, very soon, I believe you're quite close with Astral Authority as an organization as a whole. So they came into this group, I would say, probably the biggest underdog in it all, because obviously the other three teams are very, very strong. What do you hope for them here? Are they a team that is able to make the upset against Denial, or is it going to be very difficult for them?
I think it'll be very difficult. When I look at Astral, the roster changes hit teams in different ways and in varying strengths. And it hit Astral so hard to lose Equinox, who felt like the heart of the team, the aggression of the team, the shot caller. And so bringing in Cladius and Battery, who had synergy in the past, hadn't played together in a while, though. I'm hoping that they did the same thing, right? That's what you have to do, is you have to completely put the loss out of your head, and we'll see which team's able to do that better.
Right, okay. Well, going into, of course, we do take a look at Talking Trees here. A player that, to be fair, even though they were not victorious in that first series, Talking Trees still had some good plays going forwards against that. What really stands out for you for Talking Trees, Dunk? Sorry, it starts with D. I'm sorry.
Close enough, close enough. We're basically the same person anyway, except the beard versus the hair. But either way, yeah, I mean, the Astral guys, they're solid, but I just don't feel like they're on the caliber with the Naventic, with Denial, just players-wise. It feels like they're not quite at that level. So they're really going to have to do something special, I think, to beat Denial, unless Denial's a little shaky like they were earlier. I mean, like Gilly said, Denial looked like they had some trouble in the late game in both of those matches. So hopefully they can keep it together. I mean, those are my boys. I have to root for them. I mean, Glaurung, K1 Cap, like, I love those guys, so I have to root for Denial here.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be in trouble, actually, if you did it. Like, they'd march up here. You're like, hey, what are you doing? Cheer for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, there is Glaurung here as well, and he had a bit of a rough patch in the first series that they played, of course, having to play the Illidan against the comp, which was almost tailored to deal with an Illidan in that game. He didn't really have much room, Gilly, in that game.
Yeah, and I feel like this is not the first time we see that from Glau, right? It is tournament dependent. When he's on, he's on. But if that starts to happen, we can see some panic from him. So we'll see if that happens here.
Well, game number one is going to be on Cursed Hollow between these two. It's do or die now. If you lose this series, you are out of the tournament. And as you can see, our draft is well underway with a lot of familiar faces already, Dunk.
Yeah, so the Kerrigan Falstad bans, super common. Everyone's familiar with those. We did see Astral Authority first pick the Grey main. Denial eSports responded with the ETC Uther, both really highly prioritized, especially because that D-Shield Mosh is just so backbreaking, and Uther's one of the better supports against the Grey main. Now, Astral Authority, I love their response here. The immediate Tyrael Abathur. Both of those heroes are fantastic. Tyrael has so much synergy with Greymane, and the Greymane clones, Gilly, do they do damage?
They do so much damage because, of course, you don't get the heroic ability anymore. That was a long time ago for Abathur, but you still do get everything else. You get his bonus damage in Worgen form. Add 20% attack damage to that. That is a clone you can't ignore. And so even if you don't get kills off of it, you have to deal with it, and that's time for the rest of Astral maybe to pick up a boss or pick up a tribute.
Interesting to see them prioritize that so highly, because I think most part for the map, because normally you would have seen that come in the second ban phases, which we have traditionally seen so far through this tournament, Dunk.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw Abathur get banned in the last match.
Yep.
So it makes sense that you don't want to try and wait until after that second ban phase, so you pick up that Abathur. And now we do see a lot of melee assassins banned out here in the second ban phase. Both Thrall and Zeratul getting locked out of this draft. No Kerrigan available either. Who is Glaurung going to play? He's going to be forced onto another tank again.
What I will say is maybe because of the fact that Astral played this composition quite a bit on Curse before, it was their best map coming through qualifiers, where they had the most wins. And they were showing this composition before. I definitely think that if Denial could have banned Abathur, they would have, and that would have thrown a wrench in their plans.
Yeah, we got to see Tyrael a lot on this map, but as traditionally we have throughout the entirety of Heroes of the Storm, Tyrael has been a boss on this map, with his Holy Ground ability being super strong. It's going to be Tassadar and Sylvanas on the other side for Denial eSports, though. Dunk, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm a little worried about the damage potential coming out of Denial so far. I mean, they have double support, Tas Uther. They have a Sylvanas, not the highest damage dealing hero. ETC, also not known for his damage output. So even if he lands the good moshes, I mean, how much damage would they really have? They're going to have to finish off with like a Kael'thas or a Jaina that can really blow up the targets. Otherwise, they won't have enough.
But we don't have a hero yet for Glaurung. So do you think maybe it's going to be Sonya pair up with ETC? They'll have speed metal later on so that they have that extra speed. Tassadar shielding too. Is that going to be enough damage if they add her?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first instinct, is that it was probably setting up for a Sonya, because Astral can't really pick Sonya in this position. It feels like they'd be a little light on range damage if they did. So maybe that's what Denial's looking for, to last pick that Sonya. But historically, Glaurung hasn't been the Sonya guy. So unless he's really been working on his hero pool and able to play that effectively, I'm concerned about their composition. So
far on the side of Astral Authority, though, it feels to me like this is like their best draft of the tournament so far. It feels powerful. It feels like they have power behind it. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a composition that they know, which means they'll feel more comfortable, which to teams who are heavily reliant on hero pools as they are, that makes all of the difference. And when you're going up against a giant like Denial eSports, regardless of how Denial was playing in their last set, they want to have confidence going into game number 1.
Right, what are they going to round this out with? They've got themselves the healer and the warrior, unless they wanted to go double warrior for some reason. But Tyrael can, we've already seen as an example from Naventic, can hold his own alone.
Yeah, this is a tough spot for Astral, and they do pick up the Sonya. So maybe Denial getting outplayed a little bit there in the draft phase, if they were counting on that. Maybe they weren't, though.
I know what you're going to say,
Would you say they have been denied of melee assassins? You saw my face and you knew. You knew, right?
I know.
I would say that. I would say that, actually. They forced them onto the Illidan, which I'm just not comfortable with in this draft. To be honest, this Sonya, so good against Illidan.
Yeah.
Greymane, pretty solid against Illidan. And he doesn't even combo off of the mosh pit that well to do the damage.
With the Sonya being taken away, what else were they going to go for that last pick? Was Zeratul banned on the other side? What do you think would have been an ideal had they not been kind of pigeonholed into what Glaurung wants in that situation?
I feel like they were in a rough spot there. I would have liked to see a Murden and just play for late game. Once you get 16, give him the axe, then maybe you could have made something happen. At least the Illidan, you're a relevant hero throughout the game, but I'm just so concerned about him trying to get onto the enemy team, and the double Greymanes are like, oh, hey, this guy's pretty tasty.
Right. Yeah, you look in the back, too, and what is Sylv going to do? If she gets separated out, you hope you have Windrunner and can kind of juke away long enough for some other damage to come out, but double Greymanes is terrifying. You've got Sanctification to get Greymane out as well, the real Greymane, to make sure whomever is playing that will be able to survive. Looks good.
So coming into this group as a whole, it really felt like Denial Esports was one of the highest expectations, or a team with the highest expectations behind them. But now looking at this draft, are we considering this a potential upset here against Denial unless they're able to execute it much better than AA?
Yeah, I think they've really drafted themselves into a hole a bit here. I mean, they just really are going to need to do something to keep that Illidan alive against that composition, to keep the Sylvanas alive. They do have the Uther, which is a bit of a saving grace against the Greymanes. If you can get the Divine Shields off when the Greymane hard engages, then it can save you, but they have 2 Grey Mains. So now you have to clutch save one with a Divine Shield and also have like the Shrink Ray, Benediction sort of stuff to be able to save your other squishy, and it's just going to be tough for Denial.
There's also not a ton in the way of interrupting mosh pit, and there are some good places to try to catch them when they're all in a choke of a mosh. So positioning is still pretty crucial, but they do still have Sanctification, so they have a way of trying to deal with that with those.
Yeah, and the boss control is so good for Astral.
Yes.
They have that holy ground. They have Sanctification. Sonya's amazing on boss points where everyone's contesting and just brawling.
Right.
So, I mean, that's one of the main win conditions on this map. How is Denial going to win the game if they just can't contest bosses post-16?
Yeah, a map where obviously there are 2 bosses. It's one of the most traditionally important sections of, almost sometimes I consider it to be even more important than Curses sometimes when it comes to it, for sure, in terms of control. Let's take a look at the teams now. Who will be playing what? Guys, what really stands out to you? Who is going to be the people to look out for in this game?
Well, I was going to say watch out for Trees' Abathur. Maybe we'll see if it's too aggressive, but I've been really watching him start to play Abathur more, and it's been really fun. And of course, the synergy between him and Frozen X, since they will be that very important Abathur Greymane combo.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side, it's really going to come down to Glaurung's Illidan play combined with APM's Uther play. They have to be so in sync, controlling their engages.
All right, well, thank you very much, fellas. We are going to send it over to the commentary team here for game number 1. It is do or die now here on Cursed Hollow. Take it away, Jake and J-How.
Alrighty, guys. Well, Cursed Hollow, the first map to set the stage in the very first elimination match of this tournament.
Well, it's curious. We saw on the screen there, Prismaticism seemed to be letting nerves maybe get to him. I'm really curious with this comp that we're seeing from Denial. Dunk and I talked about this. Where's the extra damage that you get for Illidan to follow up on? I'm curious if Denial's going to pull it off. They've got their work cut out for them.
Well, I mean, we've seen Illidan twice today. Both of those games ended up being a loss for those 2 teams that did opt in drafting him. And as the panel was saying, I mean, it seems like this composition on the side of Astral Authority is quite monstrous. I mean, the blue team Astral Authority has everything at their arsenal. The Abathur had on that Greymane, even just in the early game, is going to be quite the menace.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see the rotations. We saw a team like Naventic last game. They were able to win the game on rotations alone, and a lot of times you can do that on a map like Cursed Hollow. The problem is, Denial, do they have the damage to be able to get those picks during the rotations? You can see they're putting a lot of early pressure, but Astral Authority returning some of that damage as Caffeine forced a power slide out of there, and a lot of pressure put back on a Denial.
You see 3 people tapping the well very early due to that big damage coming out on the side of Astral. And Astral's sitting pretty right now. Abathur's been able to soak that middle lane, just enabling them to have that big rotation presence across the map here in Cursed Hollow. But Sylvanas, if left alone, can really add up quickly. Look at the favoritism here, though. Denial, 75% believe in them. Astral, only 25% have faith.
I mean, it's kind of a big thing. When you talk about Sylvanas, you talk about the lockdown of the structures to be able to put that pressure on, to be able to get some of that soak. They're leaving Tassadar and they're leaving Illidan to be able to do what they do. So it's kind of curious to see how it works with the rotation. So much is reliant on wave clear, but we're about 15 seconds away from the camps to start spawning. I'm curious if we're going to see the rotation back to try and prioritize those before the first tribute.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 2-minute mark, camps become available. Once in a while, you'll see that Illidan utilized, maybe the Sonya utilized to go for an early camp, but they find Sonya very far forward here. Claudius doing his best to retreat from this. Even with the 3 men on top, he's going to be able to get back to his wall and stay alive. So although it looks dicey that it will force him back to Hearth, back to base, and Illidan could make his way back to that giant camp, which is exactly what he's going to do.
It's the lack of damage. They recognized he was there. They caught him out. They knew he was there. They power slid into that blindly, knowing he was there, but 3 people were not able to take it down, and that's the siege camp being picked up by Frozen X there on Greymane, and Illidan, as you said, picking it up on his side as well.
Alrighty, well, we will have that tribute spawning within the next 30 seconds at the maximum, and Abathur mounting himself into the bottom, hoping for a trip to potentially go to the top side will give themselves a nice advantage just on the map. We're guaranteed either top center or bottom center for the tribute.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's at that point to where the tribute's about to spawn, and there it is. It is going to be at the top. So RNG a little bit on the side of Denial, but at the same time, they do have Abathur's going to be at the bottom. But look at the amount of pressure that we see Astral Authority able to put. They almost took down the entire front wall.
And we're talking about Sylvanas on the other side. You expect Sylvanas to be the one getting the big pressure in, getting that push forward with her Giants. She is staying in the bottom to try to get that value with the Giants. So Denial has to stall this tribute out as long as possible. That will do nicely for them. Even though Abathur is in the bottom to get the soak, he cannot withstand the damage output of the Giants, the minions that hit so very hard, and Sylvanas shutting down the structure.
That's the biggest thing. You normally say that this favors somebody like Abathur, but at the same time, Sylvanas and Giants pushing that bottom lane. Chimera needs to try and get this, but the disruption once again, Prismat is taking a lot of damage, but he's going to be okay. Astral just trying to body him off to try and get this tribute.
And they do get it. Chimera is going to be able to capture that tribute, and they've done a ton of damage to this top lane. The gates are open, and they can look to just keep their advantage. But Sylvanas has done the damage. The bottom fort will actually very likely end up falling here. Illidan doing a good job buying some time in the middle lane, but he's taking a ton of damage himself. Has to retreat from that Sonya. Got down to just about half the HP. Big fight here in the top. Action all over the map, and it looks like Denial going to be able to hold the map and pick up the first fort of the game.
It is working in their favor, and we see the experience advantage, almost a full level lead. Not something that you would traditionally say against an Abathur, but that Sylvanas push with these Giants, that fort is gone. And you can see it's forcing Sonya to go down and rotate, but level 7 has now been picked up by Astral Authority. You can see continuing to go into that nest build is Abathur.
Yeah, but I gotta hand it to Denial. They're playing the map very well. I mean, playing against an Abathur is already tricky, especially when the Abathur does have both Sonya, Tyrael, and I guess also Greymane to be great. Actually, all of these targets are phenomenal targets for the hat. But, you know, so far, this is actually going to be a good spawn here on the side of Denial. Although they're down that one tribute, they do have the superior positioning available, and they are all ready to go for this fight.
Well, we talked about the aggressive positioning from Abathur. He is up in that top lane trying to do, but the fight is going to rage on down at the bottom tribute. You see Denial just trying to get this in. It looks like Astral's just going to go ahead and give this up, but Battery, is he going to get the Eldruins? He decides not to.
They were looking for the Abathur spike, but Prismat barely just soaked that up on Tassadar. So really nicely done, just rotating, getting in the way of that, denying that interruption. And even though the Abathur has been left alone in the top, they're slowly getting up there to try to interrupt that. The fort is, the walls are down. Oh no, Glaurung.
A little far forward there.
That's tough. Yeah, that's...
See, that's the difference that we're looking at between Astral Authority and Denial. Like, Illidan can get on a hero, and if it's somebody isolated, then generally you can say Illidan will win that fight. But when you have Rhaegar and Sonya right there, that's a decent amount of damage and survivability. You're not going to do much against that.
Well, this is tough because that really evens the playing field. Astral Authority have just completely caught up in XP. It's 1-to-1 in terms of the tribute count. And although Glaurung's back in action, you know, that's time he could have been spending getting a mercenary camp. That's time he could have been spending earning his team a small advantage going into the third tribute in this game. And unfortunately, even though they'll have level 10 first, they're not going to have this big window available.
The thing about level 10 is something that Dunk talked about. It's not that you have Greymane. It's the minute you hit level 10, you have 2 Greymanes. and that's a huge game changer that you see for the side of Astral Authority. They have a huge power spike at level 10 just based on that one heroic alone. And the tributes are going to be here. Level 10 should be picked up for both. Jake, this is about to get real interesting.
Alrighty, no weird heroics being picked up here. Pretty darn standard. That third tribute this time is going to be the top left side. And you do see everyone on the side of Denial slowly but surely making their way there. Uther is quite far away. Abathur also obviously can just use that clone when he finds that moment of opportunity. And you're going to look for that Greymane to set up for that big flank on the sides of Frozen X. And of course, the Abathur going forward with the double Greymane is going to be their kill potential.
Well, Abathur is got siege camps pushing against him in the bottom once again, but Wrath of the Berserker was popped, so Clytus a little bit already committed. The Force Wall is bodying them back, and now it's time for the clone Greymane.
All right, they're going in. The Sanctification has been popped here, but the Mosh Pit does absolutely nothing in the back. King Cappy trying to turn around, but a Mount Monsters Wailing Arrow hitting just about everyone, giving Denial a bit of hope. The Force Wall does separate them, but the Ancestral is on point for Claudius to stay alive. Battery looking to retreat. Glaurung is that one hope, and of course the clone has now expired, so it becomes a 4v5, but the tribute picked up on the side of Astral, only losing Frozen X.
Well, he wasn't able to make it back to that well, and that is going to be a kill, the first kill of the game for Denial. They were able to follow that up again. Once Illidan gets on a target, he is so hard to get off, but 2 tributes for Astral, and this is beautiful right now. Sylvanas and Illidan, they're like, hey, this is a free fort, and at the same time, Astral's like, wait a minute, you're going to be up there, we're just going to go down and get our boss. So a beautiful call right now with 0 hesitation from Astral Authority, picking up the first boss of the game.
Yeah, trading a fort for a boss isn't the end of the world. The big benefit here on the side of Denial is this opens up the map a little bit more, which is great for Illidan. Gives him more room to just like romp around the playground and have a big advantage. Now, Prismat has scouted this out. But has he overextended? Yeah, he has. Frozen X going to pick up a very clean kill. Like, you can't scout that freely this early without level 13, without level 16. Tassadar can't get away with that.
This is huge right now. Rhaegar had to hearth back. The boss should be picked up here by Denial, and they're trying to grab the tribute as well. Tyrael's not going to be able to get there in time. That curse could have been huge, especially with that boss pushing, but now it's pretty much an even trade. That bottom fort under pressure, but that top boss should be able to get cleared up without the fort in that top lane anymore.
Yeah, what are they going to commit to it? It looks like Greyman's going to stick around with Abathur to clean up that boss while the rest of the team is looking towards mid. Glau's working on his bruiser camp. Bottom boss being left alone. They know that fort hasn't been touched at all throughout this game, and the moment that they see somebody overcommit to that top lane, which is what they're trying to force Astral to do, they can just sweep on in, get that final fort in the mid lane, and secure themselves a very strong position in this game.
One of the interesting things I want to look at is Uther's level 7 talent. There is no cleanse because they don't really have to worry about a ton of lockdown. They went Burden of Guilt for the extra slow after the stun. So looking to capitalize on somebody diving in too deep, but they are capitalizing on Sylvanas pushing here in the middle.
Yeah, the wall is down. The boss is still alive in the top, just now falling to Abathur and his Locusts. The bottom boss didn't quite get that fort, so that's a lot of experience just waiting to be scooped up as 13 has just been reached for Denial. Without getting that bottom fort, again, they're a little bit behind, and considering this is the 5th and final tribute before we have a curse on the board, that's a big deal. They need 13. They need it now.
They definitely need 13, but they definitely can't give up a curse. And we see the invasion coming in, Battery coming in, trying to get on that back line with the rest of Astral Authority, trying to rotate around, jockeying for position, trying to look for a little bit of a flank, but Denial recognizing that. This is going to be a squared off 5-on-5 fight as soon as Abathur gets that clone in.
So Glaurung just picked up Giants. They're going to have additional pressure to keep that bottom lane pushed out. This is crucial. Sylvanas cleared out a wave, made sure that's pushed out so this fort stays dead. But 13 is here. Glaurung does get separated from his team with a beautiful forest wall, but he's going to look to re-engage. Frozen X very low. The Wailing Vin in on 2, but Ancestral going to top him off. The Mosh Pit on 3 targets. Can they get the damage? No. Sanctification, a beautiful response. Now APM has to back away. Forest wall once again putting them in a bit of an awkward position, and Glaurung, this is his moment to go deep. He's looking at Claudius, the 1 kill there for the Ghost for the Throat's going to get K1 Pro on Sylvanas, but King Caffeine still staying alive. APM has fallen, but he's on the Ghost form, and Glaurung needs to get a kill. He needs it now, but Claudius is just staying alive too long. The power slide on everyone on the side of Astral Authority. The explosion of the Ghost going to try to finish off Glaurung, but the janitorial duties of Glaurung have been sufficient, and it's going to be a curse for Denial.
This is absolutely crazy. That fight was back and forth, but Tassadar and ETC will survive. Chimera gets caught up by the power slide. He's going to go down. Abathur not there to save him, and that curse is going to go to Denial. Jake, that fight was crazy.
The curious wolf, he just sniffed around the corner to see what was cooking, and he found himself a beef sandwich he just couldn't swallow.
That did not go in his favor, and now we've got Giants pushing in the bottom. You've got the rest of the remaining members staying alive, pushing in the middle. This is going to be a huge curse for Denial as they start to push in that bottom lane, forcing the rotation, but another fort. It's still anybody's game, but...
It's anybody's game, but this is going to give a nice bit of momentum in terms of the experience on the side of Denial 4 level 16. Yeah, they're just one tribute away, but it's going to be a while before that even comes into play, and we still have, another 25 seconds on this curse here. So Denial, actually Claudius getting locked in here with that force wall, a lot of damage, the power slide going forward as well. And as you mentioned, I mean, even taking that damage, having to tap the well, that is costly, but they're going in hard with a big engage. They find a quick kill into K1 Pro. Sanctification not getting a big value, just allowing them to keep on moving forward, and those wolves are going to town. Frozen X will find himself that ancestral heal, and it looks like Denial has just pushed a little bit too far forward. Caffeine very low here in the bottom half. Prismat looking for that force wall. Can he land it? Yes, it's going to be on point. Glaurung will be able to retreat here with the Metamorphosis. All 3 survive. Great play there by Denial, actually getting, a little bit less loss than expected.
I don't know about you, but Abathur Greymane scares me a little bit.
Yeah, it's spooky. I'll have nightmares. It's okay, though.
I mean, the minute they decide to go in, they commit. You see Sonya dive in. When you've got Sonya and 2 Greymanes hitting on your backline, Sylvanas went down very, very quickly. And the fact that they were able to target Uther, obviously the ghost heals from Uther, allowed their team to at least stay alive a moment longer for Prismat to make those plays. And look at the amount of nests that are all over this map.
Can we dub this draft the Wolf Pack, since they run double Greymane with Rhaegar?
With Rhaegar, yes.
All right. Denial, they think they're the Wolf Pack, but I'm pretty sure Astral Authority is commanding themselves as the new Wolf Pack.
Well, it's very interesting. You know, we looked at it. The experience was in favor of Denial just a moment ago, and now Astral looks in a strong position. Level 16 should be picked up here for Denial in just a moment before the next tribute. As you said, the next tribute, if Astral can pick it up, is their opportunity to turn around and get their first curse of the game.
Yeah, and we expected it to be Denial sitting there with the 16 advantage after the curse, but unfortunately that overstepped their bounds. Now they're down without any tributes whatsoever. So really Astral, although they're down in terms of structures just a little bit, they're in the better spot here.
It doesn't take much for it to turn it around, especially when you talk about the minion damage and how much it can do during the curse phase. And you see a little bit of jockeying for position. The bosses are now active. We see Illidan rotating to the top, getting a start on his. And ETC is rotating to the bottom, basically bodying them out. When you've got ETC, when you've got Tassadar, you can basically disrupt the entire rotation while the rest of the team is going to be able to get this boss. This is a beautiful play by Denial. Astral's starting to recognize this, and they're going to hop back and start their boss as well.
They have bought so much time, and that boss should fall pretty quickly. The question is, can they rotate in time? So King Caffeine has been scouted out. He just stepped on one of those toxic nests. The boss now just being scooped up. Not going to be able to contest this, unfortunately. With that force wall, they're just making sure they can retreat safely and get in position. I'd like to see Illidan go to the top lane and clean up those giants, because those will push for a good amount of time if left alone, even with the boss in the top lane. And that boss is going to get so much less value without minions to support it. So that's a big, a bit of a blunder with that boss they picked up in the top, whereas the boss in the bottom lane is going to get a lot done.
You got to think that that moment right there, with the fact that they were able to deny the boss rotation on Astral Authority for so long, and then of course the luck being on their side where that tribute spawns at the top, all of a sudden that gives Denial enough time to pick up that tribute. But it looks like Denial could be trying to go for a keep here with this boss.
Yeah, they got the boss and a big stun in onto Battery, big damage, trying to force out an Ancestral Heal early on here, and Battery, oh my goodness, getting a Chain Heal of Sanctification, barely staying alive. So the Ancestral is going to go in onto Frozen X, enabling him to go forward. Divine Shield for Glaurung, but the Mosh Pit just getting 4 members of Astral Authority, finding 1 kill. Can they get the second with the Hammer of Justice? Trees will fall on the clone. The boss wailing away at the core, but the boss has made it through the wall in the bottom lane as well. Very even in the trades. Looks like Astral keeping AP on Barely Alive in the back, will be able to pick up this fight.
That's a huge moment. The fact that Claudius went down, they're now going to rotate in. They're jockeying. They have Illidan. They have a full team here, and they are going for the core. I don't think Astral Authority can defend against that. The minute Claudius fell, they recognize that. They're getting on the core. Jake, this is going to be game number 1, going over to Denial.
Really well played. Denial have a curse against them as Abathur just picked it up, but unfortunately, with the core going down, they will be getting game number 1 for Denial Esports.
Wow. I mean, look, can we go back to that moment where ETC and Tassadar delayed it long enough? Yes, Astral recognized it. They went back and got the boss. But that allowed enough to where Astral was not able to rotate up. They weren't able to get the curse, and it put them in a vulnerable position, and then they were forced to defend against a boss in the top keep that had already taken damage, and that was huge.
Well, I'd love to hear the thoughts from our panel from game number 1.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Game number 1 going to Denial Esports there, as they were able to seal the deal, although it was a bit closer than really that scoreline suggests there. Astral Authority had a pretty good game, to say the least.
Yeah, the game actually looked very heavily in Astral Authority's favor for a significant portion of it. I mean, especially that team fight down on the bottom right side. It looked so good for Denial at first, and they had the clean mosh, but then like everything went crazy. They got the curse, but then ended up feeding on the back end, and suddenly Astral looked like in commanding position, and then Denial's like, oh, we actually just got a 4-man mosh, so GG.
Yeah, and they forced Sanctification early on in that too, in that last final team fight. But also something that we were talking about is that draft was very, very good for Astral. And in my opinion, one of the best ones they run. They always felt very comfortable on Cursed running the double Greymane style. And so if they're not able to win off of that, I'm not sure how the next one is going to go.
As you say, the end towards forcing that Sanctification, it was very quick that Denial identified that Tyrael had no Elder Runes Might out of there, so he was in a terrible spot. And obviously Sanctification is so important in those situations.
There was also that one spot where they traded out bosses earlier on, the first time bosses were taken. It just went so much better for Denial there. They got the fort first along with the boss, and then it took longer. They were able to just get more off of it, and that is the lane they won from. So that small trade going their way ended up being a big factor toward them winning.
All right, let's take a look at some of the highlights from this game, of course, here, as there were quite a few, even with Astral Authority putting up quite a good fight. We're in the 13 versus 13 fight.
Yeah, this is the team fight I was talking about, where somehow Denial comes out with a win here, even though the Greymane manages to pick off the whole backline, basically, of Denial, but then Illidan is just like, oh, I've got Uther Ghost heals, and he just barely survives. the clutch 4-man slide keeping him alive. So despite the Tyrael explosion, Denial does clean that up, and it looks really funny because Rhaegar kind of runs around here and ends up falling eventually. But then this is the game ender. We see a huge mosh pit, 4-man, after Tyrael goes down, and that's just spells the end of the game. We've talked about this time and time again. If an Illidan gets on the core, it's going to die. So Denial just playing to their win condition and managing to trade bosses instead of trying to contest.
Yeah. It's a little shame we didn't see the earlier starts of that fight, to be honest, because again, it was pretty much all down to the fact that Tyrael just didn't have his Elder Runes Might and had to pop Sanctification in such a lackluster spot to save himself, not be able to help out the team in later stages when it is so important.
Yeah, we saw in that earlier fight the Sanctification to save from the Mosh. He got cleansed, dropped the Sank during the cleanse. It was perfect, very well executed, right? In that fight, he couldn't do it, and you could actually hear Denial getting so hyped. We could hear them screaming to target the Tyrael because the sword was down.
Yeah.
So just really well played for them there, because they just identified, look, the enemy made a mistake. Here's how you capitalize on it. Glaurung forcing the Sanctification all the way under the keep. And then when they went for the re-engage, Astral just didn't have it.
I think overall, though, Gilly, this proves that Astral Authority can pretty much go toe-to-toe with Denial, because for a long time in that game, it was basically theirs.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we didn't get the best impression from them having to face Naventic, who obviously looks great for this event, first off. So it does show that they have a clear idea about what kind of drafts are going to work on the battleground. It just didn't quite pay off for them, especially because, again, that last fight in the top lane, they needed to be able to win that because it was such a strong push. And they did lose the game from that, but I have hopes for the next one.
Yeah, it was actually really important for Denial that the tribute spawned on the top side. That was legendary spawn timing and position for them, because Astral had 2 tributes. They could have had Curse to help with their boss and the Abathur pressure, but instead the tribute spawns on the top side. Denial's like, oh, hey, we're right here. This is magical. Picked it up while, they did good job bodying with the ETC. They zoned them so they couldn't interrupt, but the tribute timing was so perfect. The positioning was just right, and then they optimized their kill. Well,
of course, make sure, guys, to join the discussion over with the hashtag HGC. Tweet at us at ESL_Heroes as well as Heroes Esports on Twitter. And for now, I think our next map is going to be Tomb of the Spider Queen, and we are going to be getting into the draft in that in just a moment. We've already seen a lot of Tomb of the Spider Queen. We've already seen a lot of early game potential control, and oh boy, Astral Authority says, Naventic did it, let's do it as well.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll go as well for them as it did for Naventic. I mean, we've seen this kind of draft opening time and time again. Kerrigan Tyrael, super high priority. They're banned out. This means Falstad goes through, gets first pick by Denial. Just like Naventic did, though, counter-picked by the immediate Zul Zagara. So this is just them saying, look, we're going to play the PvE game. We saw how well that worked in the first match. I don't think Denial will pick the Zeratul, though, and end up getting crushed by the tempo advantage from that early game.
Right. I mean, there's still a lot of options available to them when they're going into these kind of situations. ETC is going to get picked up. Do they follow that up with an Uther to then have quite the strong 3 as a choice here? Is that something that could come out?
We've seen a lot of ETC and Uther pairing together, and maybe they'll want to do that. It's funny because in other regions, I'm thinking of Korea, Rhaegar is such a high priority support, but here it seems far more team-based who you really want to have. And it does make sense that if you want to try to go for the Divine Mosh Pit, to grab him here, make sure that that doesn't get banned, and then Astral pick up Rhaegar themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Uther ETC synergy. It's just, we've seen if it doesn't quite work out, you're using so much cooldowns to get that if the Mosh Pit isn't amazing, it can cause a lot of problems. So they do pick up the Sylvanas. I like that. It's really frustrating to not have enough wave clear against Zagara and Zul, so I like that they're securing a wave clear hero early. They do have the Falstad who's solid as well, but this just leaves a lot of room for Denial Esports. They can pick up another tank if they want. They can pick up 2 supports here in the end if they want. They will have enough damage because that Falstad Sylvanas. So I think this gives them a lot of room. They're not drafting themselves into a corner just yet.
Trying to be responsive as to what Astral's going to bring, and let's see what they're going to end up banning. I suppose that makes the bans a whole lot harder, but they're going to go ban Zeratul here, even though there wasn't too much success with it on this map thus far. But I guess just kind of want to cover the bases. I guess they were scared of Glaurung and Zeratul.
You do have to respect it. You have to respect Glau's Zeratul for a long time, especially once we saw the revival of Zeratul. He was the first one to bring it about. And it makes sense that Astral would not want to have to deal with that, especially if Zag just wants to do her own thing in the backline, not have to worry about him flanking in.
Yeah, and the Johanna ban here from Denial makes total sense. Astral Authority already has a really commanding wave clear. composition, so if you added Johanna onto that, it's really difficult to deal with that. Plus, Johanna's always good against ETC, has that interrupt, has the Iron Skin, so Mosh Pit not nearly as threatening when Johanna is on your team. Makes perfect sense to get rid of that opportunity for Astral. But Astral still has a lot of tank choices here. There's a Nubrak, Mirrodin. I mean, Tyrael's banned out, so they're a little bit constricted, but they already have so much wave clear that I don't feel like they're in trouble if they pick Mirrodin, even though on this map it can be tough sometimes.
It will be Mirrodin picked up, and when Neventic ran this kind of Zul Zagara composition, they were able to pick themselves up Tyrael, but then have Rhaegar as their healer. So Mirrodin's going to be the kind of the replacement for our Tyrael here. Maybe they'll go with the Rhaegar.
My question is always, when it comes to Astral, who will Cladius play? Will it be something crazy or will it be something standard in meta? Thrall is still availability. They would have two very strong soul lane healers. They would really be able to control those by having both Zagara and Thrall. And they would, again, have the Zul and Zagara, so they'll have Zul with the rotations too, and someone to help out with lockdown too.
That's massive early game power.
In the end, they do go with that Rhaegar, though. I mean, this is totally safe. I think this is fine because it leaves them a slot open to counter whatever Denial finishes off their composition with. The thing about Astral's composition, Zul, Mirrodin, Rhaegar, that's a solid 3. That's probably going to be your rotation core.
Yeah.
And then Zagara can be the solo laner. Now, depending on what Denial picks here, will determine which ranged hero Astral Authority takes. Do they want the Kael'thas? Do they want the Li Ming? Would they rather have maybe a Jaina? We haven't seen anyone play that yet except Denial, but it's always an opportunity.
Well, now that you bring up the Kael'thas, it's interesting to see how much he's fallen off in these drafts. Jeez, I think we saw, what, 1 game so far? Oh no, 2 games so far. My apologies. But still, I mean, it's a little further down in the priority list for sure, considering what we've seen from these drafts.
Yeah, definitely. Last pick Kael'thas. It's crazy. And then another game it was like first picked. So it just seems dependent on the map and which teams are playing. But his synergy with ETC is great. I don't know if Denial is comfortable running the 3 range. We've seen them play 2 tank or tank and melee assassin here. They are picking up Thrall. I like this. I think it's solid. Their last pick's just going to be Uther, right? They're not going to get too crazy here. It's just going to be Uther, Divine Shield, protect the Mosh, protect the Thrall. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy.
Yeah, I don't see a Brightwing. It's not a Battleground where you want really global anyway. You have to worry about having a global hero. And there's nothing to help her out. There's no Tyrael shielding. There's no Tassadar shielding. And Karazim, I was going to say, occasionally team dependent, who you would want if Rhaegar is not available. Here they're going to grab Karazim. He will help out with being able to jump forward or back. Still have people up in the front too with the heals there. Has the potential for cleanse too for the lockdown that Astral has.
Yeah, I really like the Karazim here, actually. I wasn't sure they were comfortable running it, even though APM has a really good Karazim, and we've seen it a lot in the qualifiers and in scrims. He plays that a lot, one of his favorite heroes, because it allows him to play more aggressive. So Rhaegar, Karazim are pretty much the only 2 supports where you can really get in there. It feels like, and put the pain on an enemy squishy who miss positions or something. So I know APM loves that hero. I'm just a little concerned about the solo healer Monk with Thrall. It seems like if Thrall's on that front line, it's really easy for Astral Authority to focus him out, get the Zul route, Mirrodin stun, and he could go down, especially if Astral Authority picks a high damage hero here. And the thing about the Monk is he has a hard time healing that focus fire target.
Is Palm something that's going to have to be a given here? I mean, obviously, from time to time, it is a toss-up between whether you want to go Palm or 7-sided strike, but is it a given considering this comp? Or
I would like to see 7-sided strike just because they have a Mirrodin. Oh, that's a Rexar.
That's who Cladius is playing.
Yeah, okay. We have a real game on our hands, boys. For those of you who may not remember, Cloud9 ran the Rexar to a lot of success. Yeah, they don't exist anymore.
No?
They're all retired. They're washed up. They're not very good, except for K1 Pro and Caffeine, so they still play.
Ah, right.
And then, yeah, the Rexar are really good here, but they're not running it like we did in those games. We had the Tyrande stun chain. That's not what Astral Authority is doing at all.
They do still have roots from Zul. They have stuns from Mirrodin. It's not Hunter's Mark to be able to follow up and burst them down really fast. The burst might be the problem, but they do have the tanky front line. Now seeing that, are you still thinking 7-sided strike?
No, you can't run 7-sided strike into Rexar. Misha will just eat all 7 strikes and then laugh at you.
Thing in the world.
Yeah. So you just can't run it. I actually think it's a really good call because it protects your Mirrodin too from the isolation. The ETCQ W splits up the team, 7-sided strike kills the target. It's one of the best ways that we've seen international teams run 7-sided strike.
Well, now let's come out and draft. I suppose we can talk about it a little more. Obviously, they've been hyping this up. Like in the past couple of days, like we've got secret weapons, and the Rexar is now here. So we're going to see how they're going to be able to run it. So I mean, well, to be honest, it is do or die for them now. It literally is the potential last game for them in the tournament unless they're able to pull it out. So they must have a lot of confidence in this Rexar.
Well, Cladius has been playing Rexar for as long as I remember him in the competitive scene.
Right.
Back when I was casting an amateur series, he on Blaze played it with Jason playing Abathur, and they had double Rexar. And guess what? That means double Misha, too. They're not doing that here, but to say that Cladius knows how to play Rexar is an understatement.
I think I'd be the happiest guy alive. One Misha is just glorious. Never mind double Misha.
Have you played against double Rexar? There is so much bear just everywhere. There's just bears. You can never hit your skill shots, but luckily they won't be subjected to that this game. But it is a trying experience, that's for sure.
Well, let's take a look at these rosters as we go into game number 2 here in the lower bracket. Of course, Rexar is the one that stands out. How much is on the shoulders of Cladius here, Dunk? You think quite a bit?
Yeah, Cladius, he's really... For all the people say Rexar, oh, he's like a weird hero or something, he's very difficult to play because you have to manage Rexar very well. He has no mobility on his own. Misha is the tanky half of him. So you really do have to make sure that you're getting value from Rexar and not just playing Misha, but at the same time, Rexar's in a lot of danger, especially because we know K1 Pro is going to be looking for those flanks on Falstad.
What interests me is that Talking Trees and Frozen X have switched heroes. Usually Trees plays the ranged ones and Frozen X plays Zool, but in this instance, they're swapping it up. We'll see how that works out for them.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys. We're going to head over to the casters once again here for Astral Authority's Last Chance Saloon here. As we go over to the Double J's, it will be Jake and Jayhow.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we are hopping in to Tomb of the Spider Queen, where we get the dream. We get to cast the best hero in the game, Misha.
I think we're ignoring the Rexar side of that. But
irrelevant.
Well, you know, we saw Cloud9 play a lot of Rexar on Tomb of the Spider Queen, one map where he seems to excel, or she, if we're talking about Misha going in there. So we're going to see how this goes. But K1 Pro trying to get his early stacks there on his queue.
So this is going to be a really fun to watch in general. Just, you know, as the panel was saying, rotations. You have Bone Prison, you have Misha Charge, you have the Stormbolt there from Murd, and so much rotation potential here on the side. But Jayhow, what's that Zagara talent?
Something like Volatile Acid. I saw a Baneling go out. I was like, man, that thing went a long ways. I know she got changed, but that thing went clear across the map. That's the extra range on that. And plus, you're going to get extra damage on that. So they are definitely playing the PvE side, as Dunk was talking about with this setup. I mean, they're strictly playing wave clear.
It's interesting. And, you know, Misha, obviously, or Rexar actually has the Spirit Swoop, which can have great control. Misha, of course, really the only one we care about here, though.
It's a crowd favorite to have Misha in the game, so we're going to see how that works out. But the rotations are going on Zag versus Throw on the bottom lane. You got to wonder who's going to win that one, especially with Volatile Acid being picked up. But look at the way Misha is controlling that front line.
It's all about Misha. The rest of the team irrelevant. But, you know, so far, Denial, they're doing a good job keeping up with the gem count. They're just down 2 behind, you know, making sure they keep up with the rotations. Really seems like it's them responding to Astral Authority here in the early game. But as the game does progress, it will even out a bit more. We can never forget about Falstad, a hero that very rarely makes it into these games, as he's so commonly banned out. Going to be a very powerful asset on the side of Denial.
The thing that I love right now that we see between Battery on Murden and Misha, look at the rotations just around the turn point, disrupting the lane, disrupting the rotations. And now we have the Bone Prison used on the Falstad, a little bit of damage. The stun coming out. There's kill number 1. Hey, somebody had a little bit of help there with somebody named Misha.
Misha kill. I mean, yeah, that's a great pick up there. Obviously, we saw K1 Pro just trying to step forward just to soak the lane, and the rotation came straight through that coffer. They're not afraid of going around. They know they're the ones that have control for the early game, and they're just flexing that advantage that they have in this series. Finding K1 Pro early denies them. It like forces this whole, you know, big response to the top lane. It forces them to respond. Then they're down in experience just slightly, but a lot of gems were able to be turned in. Generally speaking, we don't see 22 gems just casually dropped off in the early portions of the map.
They've got that control, and you know, it's one of the things until level 7 till we get a cleanse out. Bone Prison, Stormbolt. You've got Misha coming in with the charge. That's a lot of control over these early rotations, and Astral seems to be doing that, but Denial's sticking right there with them. Nothing out of the ordinary, very even on experience.
So the Thrall pickup so far is working pretty well for Glau, I'd say. This is definitely not his most comfortable melee assassin, though. I mean, we think of Glaurung, we think of Zeratul, we think of Illidan. You know, in the past, we used to think of Stitches a lot, but so far so good dealing with that solo soak, which they really need, considering how prominent these rotations have been out of Astral Authority throughout this game. They do need one of their lanes to at least just be rock solid. But Prismat's going to try to Haunting Wave over the wall, will be able to escape the clutches of the bear.
I mean, there's so much pressure being put on by Misha alone. As you talked about, a fan favorite, and there's somebody named Rexar behind there. But as you can see, being very aggressive with the turn-ins, already 25 turned in. They're not hesitating at all as Caffeine trying to return a lot. He knows he's got Prismat
and
there.
And the top coffers, too, they're like, they're constantly sitting around that point, nearly have enough for a full turn-in. So they're halfway there, 25 in the bank. King Caffeine with stun after stun, the root from the Bone Prison, and the Spectral Scythe doing some huge damage. Caffeine will end up falling, and now we see APM barely getting out there. Chimera will end up falling to that last auto of K1 Pro, which is a big victory for them, and finding themselves back in the game, actually taking the experience lead now.
The lockdown potential is huge as Battery. Got to be careful not to get caught out. His Dwarf Toss is there, but will the rotation keep up? K1 continuing to put the pressure on with that Lightning Rod. You know, one of the things I want to look at in particular, Serrated Spines. These Banelings are coming from nowhere, Jake.
For days.
But Zagara, Serrated Spines, you know, Thrall has a lot of sustainability in a lane, and he can heal himself up, but he has to recognize that that's a talent that stacks over time. So, Zagara, I'm curious how much she'll be able to stack that.
Okay, K1 Pro does get 15 in the bank, actually, in a slight advantage for the turn-in favor of Denial. Actually going from 0 to 40 is great in a short amount of time. So it's anyone's game for that first turn-in. Both teams about to grab their level 7 talents, but Zagara being left alone a bit too long. This is going to add up quickly. So he's not going the full-on ham push that we see out of Coffin, where Coffin will just get that big advantage. He's being a goalkeeper. He's playing safe. He's playing passive, getting his creep spread, and... well, Battery, though, getting very low here.
I think the whole thing is that they went ahead and rotated 5 people up. Look at the flight over by K1 Pro. So aggressive, the Bone Prison going to be there, but there's no follow-up. But I love the fact that the rotation from the rest of Denial tried to get them to force the turn-in, but it does look like Astral is going to get the first round of Web Weavers of the game.
Yeah, Zul was able to safely turn that in. I don't know if it was Zul or Zagara. Someone in the lower half got that for the team, and now they have a lot of pressure. Now, this is double specialist with Rexar and Misha behind all these Web Weavers. Already a lot of damage has been done from Zagara being left alone in the bottom, but Glaurung is waiting, so Glaurung can quickly clean up bottom by himself, has great single target DPS. When you let him PvE, I mean, he's just phenomenal in that scenario. And you see they're doing a good job maintaining this mid lane. Although they'll lose a tower or two, in the end, this looks like it'll be a stronghold for Denial.
One of the biggest things, just keep rocking, picked up by ETC. There's so much lockdown that they're trying to mitigate anything that they can see, but there's the stun coming in. APM having to dash away. Same for Caffeine. There's so much control there, Jake.
Yeah, it looks like the well's not quite ready for King Caffeine. They managed to keep it alive. That's a big deal. Some of those shields will regenerate. Glaurung has cleaned up the bottom and saved the fort, kept it alive for the time being, but a few of those mega long-range banelings could prove to be a problem. So eSports. Well, we're going to actually see if we can get a pause in here as our main observer has seemed to have left the game. Oh, we're back in on the secondary. Jay Howe taking the camera.
I think that's actually them. They've got it. I've got it on the other screen, but that is going to be them. It seems like they are staying with us as we see the rotation up. Level 9 picked up by Astral Authority, and they're continuing with the rotations. They need to try and deny anything that Denial has. I guess it's a little bit of a denial. But either way, they have enough gems, does Denial. It's a matter of if they can get that turnaround as APM trying to Hearthback right in the middle of the map is just having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's a fun thing to do, to see if you can get away with it. Can I go or can I not? Well, we do see that the gems are very much, you know, being dumped off here from Prismat, or attempted to be. 24 in his pocket. Bottom fort just now collapsing to Zagara's approach. Those banelings you can lob so very safely. And with that fort going down, level 10 is just about here on the side of Astral Authority.
Well, I'm curious what Astral's approach is going to be. They're going to have a little bit of time before level 10 is picked up by Denial, and it gives them an opportunity to at least force another turn-in. They don't have enough gems, but will they try and force the fight is the big question. Will they try and get some early structure damage? And they seem to be pushing in here in the middle.
Alrighty, well, with a heroic advantage, they have every right to be pushing forward like they are right here. And so far, the you know, it's working out pretty nicely for them. They're not going to overcommit. They know that level 10 isn't far away for Denial, but every moment they can force Denial back into their base, deny them from soaking the lanes or being able to go near the coffers is a big win for them, as they just dumped off 28 gems from Battery.
Yeah, even if level 10 is picked up by Denial, the lane is going to be pushed in so far that those Web Weavers are going to spawn a little bit further back. But are you ready to unleash the boars? Because that's what Rexar picked up at level 10.
I am ready to see those boars go to town. But level 10 has just been picked up here as well on the opposing side of Denial. And they have some heavy engage. They did go for Palm, 7-sided strike, not going to be very good versus Misha. But those boars are engaging, trying to stop the turn-in, unsuccessful in doing so. But can they find the initiation? Glaurung gets stunned in the top lane. We do see the power slide for 3-man Mosh, but we do see Battery managing to get on out. Poison Nova only going to connect onto the single person in the back, but Glaurung with the big Sundering trying to disrupt all of this. Divine Palm does end up being cast here, but I don't think it connected on anyone, and everyone on the side of Denial will just be slowly but surely staying alive.
Interesting timing by that Poison Nova. It looks like he was just a target, like a long-range Poison Nova to try and get. It did hit, I believe, a target or two, but a little bit of interesting popping there of the Heroic, but the Web Weavers are out for Denial. They're being cleaned up very, very quickly.
Onto Trees, who thought he was safe here in the mid lane, but Denial targeting him in the back. The power slide securing the kill. Very nicely done. So with Zool down, they can look to actually get some value out of this Web Weaver spawn, but the mid one's almost down. The bottom lane has had those Giants this entire time dealing with it, and all things considered, it's basically been 50 gems that did nothing.
It gives them a little bit of map control, but not that much. They didn't push up hardly at all. You look at the minimap, the top lane, still back towards their wall. Here in the middle was the most success that they had, and Jake, there's barely any damage done there.
Yeah, I mean, the one big benefit is they did get the kill on Zool, so they did buy them, you know, just a bit of space here on the map. In terms of gems, they do have the advantage as well. 71 in their pocket, ready for another turn-in. So if they can keep that control, clean up the creep spread, which is exactly what they're looking to do right now, things will look good. But Karazim had gone back to base to just replenish his mana, get ready for another fight. Sunray coming off cooldown right now. That will give them the initiation if needed. But they don't have the strongest presence in the bottom.
The thing that they do have is they have a lot of gems. K1 Pro going in on the backside. Nice barrel roll over for the body block. Gladius is going to be forced to rotate back, and Battery trying to do all kinds of things, but the Gust is going to isolate him, Jake.
Battery had just Dwarf Toss, so it's lights out for him. Popping that after trying to stay alive. The power slide and the Sundering almost overkill. Locking him in the top part, but a massive Poison Nova coming out here. The stasis is going to be enough for the resurrection onto Glaurung. Great heals from APM in this fight, who just topped off his mana. That's been huge for him. He's already down to half. If he didn't replenish his mana prior to that fight, this would look very bad. They very much have the stay potential for this. They have the turn-in available. Murden's still down. There's no way they can engage. They can only hope to stall.
The thing about APM is that Karazim is likely one of his best heroes, if not his best hero. We talked about not having Uther, but you can see how much value he gets. More gems being turned in here, but we do see the blue Web Weavers are coming out. They were turned in the bottom.
Oh man, they just kind of forgot about Frozen X. He just scooted on down there Zagar on his creep spread and got himself a nice little turn-in.
Well, the next round of Web Weavers are going to come out. I'm really curious what Astral Authority can do. We talked about the double specialist plus Rexar, so they have a lot of control. We're a little bit further in the game. They should get 2 forts out of this, but Denial is going to try and defend as we see the top lane is being defensed first.
Okay, so really the name of the game, Poison Nova, Avatar, both on cooldown for a while. 10 seconds till Sunderings here, 20 seconds for Wailing. So Sundering does give a hard engage option, but are they going to be willing to do that with the Web Weaver still standing? Probably not. Denial just needs to play safe, do their best to mitigate the damage done from these Web Weavers, but this last fort is going to go down. The Radiant Dash barely getting out of there, but Misha looking for the kill on APM. Does trigger it. Misha goes down. No more bear in this fight. The boars are coming out to try to get the same kind of effect, but the Sundering going to be stunned out here. Glaurung was looking for it. The Wailing on 4 is the follow-up available. Gust into the top. They're all clumped up. The Sundering doing big damage, but a 2-man Maw. Is it enough? No, the Mosh Pit stalling Chimera out. He's trying to get in the wolf form, but big fight, big victory for Denial.
They played everything so perfectly there. The minute they took down Misha, they realized that Astral Authority had no control, and then the mighty Gust over. This is just phenomenal play all around right now, but not by Denial. They are rotating perfectly against Astral.
And just good communication too, because that looked like it could have been a good moment for the Sundering, but K1 said, let me Gust, let me Gust. They gusted them all into a clump in the top, landed the Sundering. Even with the 2-man Maw, it wasn't enough to save them there. K1 Pro quickly flies down to the bottom lane to clean up that last Web Weaver. Now it's a commanding position in terms of the objective for Denial eSports. They're up in XP. They can get another big turn in here and snowball it forward in their favor.
They have enough for 2 turn-ins. I mean, they could get this turn in and then get another one. I mean, they reasonably will by the time this ends. And the experience is dead even, so Astral Authority still has a bit of map control. The camp being picked up here by Denial is going to allow them to get a little bit of pressure on the map and try and push forward. But you can see Falstad in the bottom, ETC in the top, trying to get some type of push up those lanes before their next Web Weaver phase.
Now, Rexar is grabbing himself this nice Merc camp with Frozen X, and that'll give him a bit of presence in the mid. But they have conceded a lot of control here on the point. As they are down those members, APM's looking for the turn-in, the root in on Battery, forcing him to Dwarf Toss away. They've done a nice job with the Banelings in Rexar, just stalling this out as long as possible, and it looks like they'll be able to do that once more. K1 Pro not feeling confident in going up to that bottom coffer. He just knows he doesn't have the support, doesn't have the peel, just going to be safely soaking, but he's sitting on 38 gems right now.
He is, and you can see the vision with that creep there, and the denial from everything. Gladius trying to maintain the top one. They have vision on the bottom with the creep from Zagara, and this is what their comp is based around. It's based around map control, wave clear, and you can see as much as Denial wants to push back against them, they're basically forced to stay back and deal with whatever Astral's throwing at them and look for their opportunity.
It's so tough because, just look at the minimap right now. Astral is sitting on all three of their forwards, whereas Denial has 0. Denial has the experience lead, so obviously if they manage to get a big Web Weaver turn in and actually capitalize off the push potential, that's going to quickly give them a lot of experience, but they're not able to ever get up towards the middle of the map just because of the vision, the control, the pressure that Rexar and Zagara have been putting on. And look at this, all the gems of Astral are being dumped off.
It just seems so easy with the map control. You can win solely off of map control. It's something that I hear Dread harp on all the time, is being able to have map control, especially on a map like this, to have that wave clear, but we've got to fight on the top.
Yeah, Battery had to pop his avatar very early due to the 3-man collapse that happened to him here in the top lane, but level 16 has been attained first here for Denial, so they've actually forced Battery to waste that avatar just to stay alive, and now they can push on in. This is a big advantage for them. Misha doesn't quite get caught. Actually, the Sun catching her on the back end, but a nice Bone Prism will be cleansed off there. So although that looked like a big advantage on the side of Denial, they're the ones sitting in a bit of a weird position, but as they regroup, look for the pressure, we see K1 Pro looking to try to land that flank gust, forcing them away. K1 Pro should go unresponded to about. No, everyone rotating down, trying to find that moment. Can they deny both of these turn-ins? We do see both being attempted from Denial eSports.
APM, he gets stunned out right before it goes through. I wonder if he's going to try and do it once again. Misha just staying in there, being a menace, getting the double stun, Jake. They are staying in.
Yeah, oh my goodness, they were so close to getting Misha. That's what King Caffeine was looking for. He got the nice knockback, but Misha getting that heal. The Men Pet coming through, topping her off. This has been a very prolonged fight, long enough for Astral to pick up level 16. And we talked about that avatar being used, kind of a disadvantage for them. Only 20 seconds till it's back in action.
I mean, that is exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to deny, and you pointed it out. That allowed them to hit 16, and now they don't necessarily have to back off as much. K1 Pro on that backside. We see the roaches come down, disrupt once again, Jake.
Zagara is getting just crazy value in this game. So is Rexar. Just romping on forward, just stalling out every little attempt. Like, oh, APM tries. Guess what? Oh, and a nice poison nova going off there. King Caffeine not able to finish off trees before the Ancestral tops him off. Glaurung gets a Sundering after that Mighty Gust goes in, and Divine Palm has been completely wasted. The Wailing used in desperation. Trees still alive in the chain heal, topping everyone off, and now they're falling. All of their damage going into Glaurung, who's using Wind Fury to run away from this battle. Bone Prison has no follow-up due to the big damage from Sylvanas on the top, looking for Zool, but Prismat not able to pick up the kill. So many close calls. The turn-in once again being attempted here from APM, but again, the Roaches, the Banelings, they're all stalling out so very nicely.
Jake, this is a battle of wills. Something has to break eventually. Nobody is pushed on either side. It is a dead heat in the middle over these turn-in points. Astral still doesn't have enough to turn in, so they're still trying to deny denial of these turn-ins as Glaurung has the Bone Prison on him. Will they have the follow-up as Misha goes in?
Okay, the flying forward a little bit too far. The mosh pit's going to be completely interrupted there, but K1 Pro landing a monstrous boomerang there. The hammering just kind of going ham, and we do see once again the med pit coming into play. Misha has been a constant menace throughout this game. People talk about Rexar as being a niche pick that doesn't have a lot of value. Well, guess what? Astral Authority has figured it out.
I think that they saw it used against them just a few months ago by Cloud9. They said, let's try our hand at it a little bit ourselves. And they're playing it with a completely different comp. You look at Zagara, you look at Zool. But where is the push coming from? Where is the fight? It's 7 kills to 2, still in favor of Denial, as we see Glaurung trying to get another turn in.
it. Well, the kills obviously aren't helping as they're down in the structure count in this game. And every single time a fight breaks out, you just see Denial playing very safe, retreating. K1 Pro lurking in the top coffer right now, just hoping for a turn-in, but not willing to commit to the fight at any moment. But he now has Mighty Gust once again. He's looked for the flanks a few times right now with the Mighty Gust. Has paid off a few of them. Other ones have been kind of the duds. But unfortunately for Astral, they haven't been able to find K1 Pro and make him drop those 49 points. ETC falls. King Caffeine gets focused down. Divine Palm on the wrong target as Prismat was not at all risky at risk to go down. And the Mighty Gust forcing everyone up. But unfortunately for Denial, they're in a bad spot.
Well, they are in a bad spot. Glauron forced to use Sundering, and now Poison Nova has come out and activated that camp in the middle. Chimera very deep, forced to rotate back. But they do have 11 gems, does Astral Authority, and they're only 9 away. This should be another Web Weaver, but they said, hey guys, this camp is active. We've got 5-4. Let's go ahead and grab that.
It's going to be more than just the Web Weavers. Like, you're talking about the camp. We're now talking about keeps being at risk because Denial has been playing on their side of the map this entire game. I mean, they haven't been able to get the coffer. They've been looking for a turn-in. 137 gems in their pocket? That's not a good thing.
I'm so surprised at what Astral has been able to do to deny Denial. I hate saying that, but to deny Denial the turn-in. And they built their entire comp around control of the map, control of the turn-in points, and it leads to another round of Web Weavers that they're going to be pushing. Siege camp on the bottom, and they just picked up the camp on the other side. But Denial looking for a little bit of a party bush here.
You know, this is their best bet. If they can find someone, you see Battery actually able to get out of the Dwarf Toss, not able to find the stun when he's midair, so he will be able to slip away. But I don't know what Denial can do. They're pretty much going to lose a keep here. There's just too much. They've got the Giants, they've got the Web Weavers, which are going to be defended very safely. Mid lane, top lane, they're not staggered at all. They're going to be pushing just behind this bottom lane. And the wall has already just about gone down with just the safe poke from Zagara and Zul behind.
Their only saving grace is they do have Sylvanas, since allowing a little bit of lockdown on those siege shots, but Glauron gets locked down in the bottom, uses a Sundering Jake.
The Ancestral will top off Trees, who then lands a big Poison Nova on 3 members of Denial, and they don't quite find the kill, so clutch plays are coming out from the heels of Chimera, and right now they managed to hold on to this keep, rotating up to the mid lane to try to force that back. That's going to signal Astral to move back on into the bottom keep, looking to go for the throat there. Top lane also, that keep is incredibly low from the Web Weaver, which has gone uncontested, and level 20 approaching very rapidly for Astral Authority, but the focus on Battery isn't enough. Prismat going forward with the Haunting Wave, looking for the kill. Misha not even going to go down here. Astral Authority walks on out, but the 4-man Maw. Astral collapsing back on in, the Banelings in place, and just the critical damage. Oh my, Denial, I don't even think they can go. We're going to game 3 at this rate.
Oh my goodness. We saw the posturing by K1 Pro, looking for it, but Zagara turned it around. Jake, that is the play of the day right there.
And that is game, just
what
like
happened?
that. Astral Authority feigned a retreat. They saw the fly-in. They knew they had the moment. The clump up was there because they thought they had the money gust to seal the victory. But guess what? We're going to game 3, Jay Howe.
Frozen X has given me goosebumps with that play alone, and just like that, they just want to turn around and said, K1 Pro, you're not disrupting this. We got this. Game number 3 coming up, guys. I can't imagine what went through their head when that Maw landed.
100 gems going into the darkness. Now, you know, we've talked about Falstad as being like a really prominent hero in this tournament, and there we see K1 Pro, one of the best ranged assassins in North America, on the Falstad, unable to make those plays happen. The double specialist, the Misha, just the ultimate denial install and control of the coffers from Astral looked so crisp.
They controlled that entire game, despite the fact that they lost a few picks. You saw that. They sacrificed Misha a little bit, but they denied it, and they were able to stay against that.
Well, guys, we're actually going to throw to a quick commercial break as we prepare for our 3rd game and final game of this series. Stay tuned.
Your host, the great Magus Medivh, invites you back to party down with me.
Come inside, meet your friends at the door. We've got a feast like you've never seen before. Take your stuff to our musical beat. Play life-size chest, but don't you dare cheat. Most of all, throw your worries away. Dive right in, you'll never be the same. This is a place of funky magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in Karazhan.
That was a maul.
Yeah, Denial was just barely hanging on there in that game. Armful of gems.
Really just what I would say is that Astral Authority were smarter than the average bear in picking up Rex on them.
Definitely, definitely. Denial, they just got caught in the jaws of the beast bait at the end of the game.
There were a lot of grisly fights in terms of heroics, a lot of missed synergy there, a few missed palms too, but just barely able to win that, and we're going to game number 3.
All right, so in this team fight, here's the Wailing Arrow we saw where they do get the perfect engage. This is what Denial was looking for all game. They wanted to get Gust, locking them down, and then able to set up the mosh pit, and that's why they were able to clean up this fight. This is one of the only fights in the game that went well for Denial. The rest of the time, we saw some missed synergy here. In this fight we're about to see, I mean, this is looking so clean. You know Denial is trying to set up for this huge Gust, but then the Maw.
Unbearable pressure.
4-man Ma, and the setup outside of this was so perfect. A palm that hit kept Glaurung alive, but he was in the middle of everybody there. You can see gems just littering the battlefield too, and that really goes back to how effective Astral Authority's composition was at denying turn-ins. At one point, we saw 127 gems, and I was like, why don't they just turn and fight? Doug was like, you don't want to fight here. You don't want to fight that, but they also could not turn them in.
I think something that stands out, though, is that Zul'Zagara on this map, it's all right.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good there, too. I mean, despite having a composition that didn't have very much kill pressure in the early game, Astral Authority still just maintained map control. We saw at the end of the game they had all 3 forts up. I mean, it just felt like Denial couldn't get out on the map. Zagara always denied them at turn-ins. Zul put so much pressure on their walls. It felt like Denial was just like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? They couldn't make anything happen.
Yeah, a lot of times you see Sylvanas drafted in these battlegrounds where she can enable, like Shrines, like Tomb, but if you aren't able to actually pick up the objective, then that's not really that useful. Yeah, she can delay waves, but it's still not getting her full potential.
All right, we're into draft number 3 here for this series. It's 1-1. Now both of the teams are down to game, as we will see what's going to happen. It's already Zeratul and Falstad ban out. Zeratul as a first ban is something I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, that's really, really uncommon. So I expect on this map, since it's such a big map, Kerrigan drops in value a lot. So in response, Astral Authority with that first ban does choose to ban Zeratul. Denial banning the Falstad. We see a lot of Falstad bans from the second pick team. Now, Astral Authority first picks the Grey Main. They're obviously really comfortable with that. Denial turns around and takes the Uther ETC. We've seen this before from Denial, the really high prioritization of Uther.
It also doesn't give anything away. They know that they have their support, they have their warrior, they can adapt to whatever comes out from Astral at this point too after the bans. But can we just back up one hot minute and talk about the fact that we are on Garden of Terror?
Oh, do we have to?
When's the last time we've seen this?
Well, we saw, I think, once in Europe, and I was scared for my life.
Are you scared again?
I'm scared.
Are you afraid of the nighttime, Kalaris? Is it too scary?
Yeah. It takes a while to get through that nighttime, for sure. About 40 minutes worth of game.
Yeah.
That's about how long?
Pretty much. Now, Astral Authority did pick up the Tyrael. This is one thing I was afraid of. When you pick that ETC Uther, you know the Grey Main team is going to respond with that Tyrael, and we've just seen how effective that is time and time again. Now, the Sonya pickup wasn't expected for me. I thought they would go with the Abathur again, because this map, like Cursed Hollow, is one of those huge maps, and the Grey Main Abathur Tyrael composition is so powerful. I'm surprised they picked up the Sonya this early.
Plus, Abathur plus a melee of some sort can basically solo one of those giant plant terrors, which is always really good to have heroes who are able to do that. But now Denial have a ban here. They could ban either a support. Maybe they'll still look at Abathur potentially here.
Yeah, it seems like the more logical progression for them to deal with here. Because it couples up with so already a lot of what Astral Authority's got. And then on the other side, what would Astral Authority ban? It's a problem because, as you said, their first 2 pickups on the side of Denial are very generic. Anything can fit with them. They could go double warrior if they wanted. They could go into more damage if they wanted. Well, some damage if they wanted, because there's currently none on the board.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything that Astral Authority has to be really super afraid of. Denial was concerned about that Abathur. They do ban that out. I think that's totally reasonable. You don't want to allow that to go through the ban phase. Astral Authority forcing that ban there just with the strength of the composition. And now Astral Authority can kind of switch into potentially a double support if they want. The Illidan ban, this is just banning Glau's comfort heroes.
Right. It worked so well for them to focus on Glau in the last game. They take out Illidan. Illidan is a hero who can have the potential to solo one of those big garden terrors. And that once again means that if they want a melee assassin, they're moving toward having to have Thrall, and that was not working for them last game.
Yeah, they did not have the best coordination with those Sunders and Gusts last game. So they would definitely have to improve this game. But on the other hand, I think if they pick Muradin here, that would be really good for Denial, because one of the interesting things about this map is that squishy, low mobility heroes like Kael'Thas or Jaina can get run down by the Garden Terror in late game very easy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this many times before, or at least we would if we saw Garden of Terror many times.
It's true.
Is a Kael'Thas out on the middle of the map just gets killed by a 20-minute Garden Terror. So I think you have to avoid low mobility range heroes, and that's why this Sylvanas is a good pickup. And if they pick up the Muradin, then they have a solid front line, but all of those heroes can escape a Garden Terror.
Haunting Wave away all the time with the Sylvanas, makes sure she's okay. And it will be Kerrigan for the first time in the tournament coming out here.
Yeah, we were talking about Glaurung's hero pool. Zeratul, Illidan, heroes he is known for now, but way back in the day, at the beginning of Heroes, he was the Kerrigan guy. So I'm glad to see him playing it here. We thought maybe it wouldn't get picked up because it was a big map, but I think Kerrigan is a fantastic pick, and hopefully he can make it work.
Kerrigan builds have been evolving too, so we'll see if we have more of the self-sustained siphoning impact clean kill kind of build, or if we'll be focusing more on the drags, the psionic pulse to have the damage once you pull people in. But Astral with their last 2 picks, getting Rhaegar as their support. And one final pick here. No Abathur to help with that. Tassadar still on the table if they wanted extra shielding for Sonya and Greymane, but with Tyrael shielding to help with that, maybe looking more for a ranged hero.
I mean, beyond a sanctification, surely this is like Kerrigan Playground. She's going up against a virtually all melee comp so far, as long as Worgen form is the choice later on in some of those later game combats. So there is the potential Kerrigan does massive damage here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with the Divine Shield. Kerrigan without the Divine Shield can get swarmed and killed by melee heroes. They just surround her, kill her, one hits the combo, but doesn't matter because the others are on all sides. But if you get the Divine Shield and that Maelstrom is just giving you shields after shields after shields, the Divine Shield ends, you have all your cooldowns back up, you can definitely crush team fights that way.
Something we saw before from Denial was some Jaina play, and Jaina is a hero that's been comboed with Kerrigan in the past. What do you think of having Jaina here? She can wave clear really well for the small seed camps too. And with the ability to add more damage, she can clear out really fast. There's Lunara, by the way.
Yeah, the Lunara actually looks really good here. Denial Esports in a position where now, if they want to try and deal with Lunara, they have to pick up a second healer with Uther, which isn't really where you want to be in your draft.
Right.
Like Tassadar, Uther, Uther Brightwing, I mean, these aren't the most impressive combinations of those heroes. So now Denial Esports, they have to pick the Li Ming, which I like. You were talking about the Jaina, and it would have been hard for Jaina to connect to Lunara. I think it's hard for Jaina to survive Greymane. Tyrael has a lot of mobility, so I don't think it's the best pick here. At least Li Ming, there's always the chance for the power slide, blow up. Kerrigan combo, blow up. So I like the follow-up there.
I want to theorize a little bit. I mean, for Lunara, obviously, most of the time we see Thornwood Vine, but I've seen a little bit more Leaping Strike in recent times. It did get a bit of a damage buff, if I recall, in one of the most recent patches. Is that something we could see here, or are we still expecting Thornwood Vine?
I've seen it here and again. I don't know if it'll be right here, though, especially because it does, obviously, for a little bit, put you in a really bad position, depending on how you're jumping in. If we're looking for more of to the Splintered Spear type, constant poking to try to take out Uther and tax him, Thornwood Vine is a safer way to do that.
Yeah, you just want to spread all that poison as much as possible against Uther.
Yeah, the Thornwood Vine is definitely the safer option, but if you want to look sweet, you can Leaping Strike over the Kerrigan combos, and then you look like a total bad baller.
You could have said it. You could have said it. I would have been okay. But let's leave it for now. All right. So, I mean, going into this draft as a whole, who do you think kind of came out a little bit on top here, especially for Garden of Terror, a map that we're not really seeing too much, Gilly?
I do like Denial's composition. I am excited about Kerrigan. It is a big battleground where usually you don't want to rotate between the lanes as much, but they have Sylvanas to push along with the Garden Terror. If they start to get resets too, that would be great, but they can't just let Astral poke them down for forever because Lunara will become a problem.
Yeah, I actually think Astral Authority has a really solid draft here. The Tyrael Sanctification is going to slow down the fight a lot and make it really hard for Uther to deal with all that damage over time. So unless there's a really nice mosh pit, I think Astral Authority can play the poke game, disengage, cause havoc that way, and just whittle down the Uther team.
All right, well, we shall see going into this in just a little bit. Of course, there is a little bit of room for Greymane to have, some fun, of course, with the Sanctification. Tyrael there, always able to help. It's so nice that we're seeing so much Tyrael. Isn't it, Gilly? So nice.
It's so wonderful. You know what? I would love if we had a little more Brightwing.
Yeah?
But a lot of Tyrael is okay, too.
I completely agree. It's nice to see him get rolling out. Of course, we will be taking a look at the rosters here, along with who will be playing what in just a second for Garden of Terror. So we've already mentioned about the Kerrigan on this side. Lunara coming out as well to deal some damage. Dunk, who else stands out to you on these rosters?
I mean, I think this is just going to be the Kerrigan show. Really, the game is all going to be about, does Glaurung hit those huge combos or not? I mean, Rhaegar's a target, Greymane's a target, Lunara's a target, even though she's slippery. So if the Kerrigan lands combos, it's going to be hard for Astral to survive. I
mean, Gilly, something that's very important on the side of Denial is Kerrigan Li Ming is actually a devastating combo, right?
It is a combo. It pulls right into the Li Ming damage. And let's not forget there are a lot of choke points on Garden of Terror where combos and mosh pits are going to get a ton of value.
All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to head over for game number 3. It will be Jake and Jayhow once again. Take it away, boys.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we are hopping on in here. This is it. This is an elimination match. The team that falls in this game here, they're done. Their dreams are shattered.
I mean, this is a big moment. Astral Authority, you know, they've had their changes, but they've got the experience and they've been around and they've finished near the top in these before. But they're going up against Denial. Denial wants to have a good showing. This is their first tournament together. I think this is a good show. They're going to send K1 Pro to the bottom as a little bit of distraction. Guess what? They're going to send the rest of the team up with Sylvanas to the top.
And yeah, K1 is actually going well out of his way to make sure he doesn't show himself. They're going to get a free tower here in the top lane, and K1's going to be able to get a lot of poke too. Now note that no one on the side of Astral has shown themselves, which is why K1 is playing so safely. The Wisp is scouting out that bottom area as well, but still good start here. Nice little tactics out of Denial. So let's talk a little bit about this composition. Now we're talking about the Kerrigan. We haven't seen a lot of Kerrigan. She's been banned quite frequently throughout the day, but paired with ETC, that's already a lot of stun. That's going to enable so many big resets for K1 Pro, but Denial has to be in sync in this match.
They definitely do, especially when you look at Kerrigan's level 1 talent, siphoning impact. That relies on a hero dying in order for her to stay alive. As Couch had just talked about a minute ago, the fact that we've seen some very different Kerrigan builds with the reworks, a little bit different build than what I've seen traditionally, but look at the pressure.
So I love this. I love this pressure, because if you look at that last game, it was Astral Authority playing the safe game, poking and prodding from afar. Based on what they have in this composition with Lunara and just a lone Uther to heal, Astral needs to bring the pain, and they need to bring it quick.
Well, the fact that they have Sylvanas pushing that down, that's a fort down already. And they're just going in. I mean, think about this. The Terror in this day and age does so much damage.
Man.
If you just have a bypass to the fort straight to a keep, I mean, that puts a lot of pressure on the enemy.
Yeah, Overgrowth is just, it's so impactful now. I mean, Queen's Curse has always been a big, powerful play. You can just throw it on basically the AoE polymorph, but with the Overgrowth having so much damage output and being so very tanky, you can't let an early guard and go over. So already a nice start here on the side of Astral. They got 30 gems. Battery is super low. Aldruin might forward with no HP. A risky play that does not pay off. He falls early. He's going to get a bit of damage on Glaurung, almost picking up the kill because it hits so very hard with Even in Death being picked up here. But yeah, this is still looking like a great start regardless on the side of Denial.
It is. It's very interesting. And again, we're going more into the Ravage build with Kerrigan. Again, we see the Psionic Pulse that was real popular, and except we're seeing kind of like an old school Kerrigan build looking to try and capitalize on getting that wave clear. And you can see Caffeine, there's the slow coming in from Lunara. He's going to face melt and power slide away, but that's the poke damage. It's going to be up to Astral to kind of force those fights to where they can take advantage of their poke and dive comp.
And it'll be interesting to see if they go for Nature's Calling. I mean, it's pretty likely when you consider the PvE, but Battery's going to fall once more on this Tyrael. That's 2 deaths within about a minute and a half. That's going to enable a rotation here onto this nearly dead Plant Terror. So they're going to scoop up almost all of the seeds that were rightfully earned by Astral Authority, and that's a big loss on their end.
I mean, those are deaths you can't make. And the rotations right now heavily favor Denial. The experience, they almost have a full level lead this early because of that early pressure from Sylvanas, because of the rotations on these skills. It's allowing them to get a lead on this. And if they get enough seeds here, this could potentially be the first Terror. As you can see, Astral Authority recognize that they're trying to defend.
It almost looks like Astral isn't comfortable on this map. Denial is playing very well, but now that they're grouped up with a very straightforward fight, maybe Astral can make something happen. A power slide in on 2, the Stomp coming in, putting Better in an odd spot, and the big damage going forward for Chimera, but the kill actually going to be Lunara going down. Glaurung out of position will fall here to trees, diving forward with that Eyes in the Dark, but this Plant Terror waiting to be scooped up here, and that's going to be one picked up early on the side of Denial.
That's huge. I mean, they already cleared the top. They're going to get good value out of this. They're almost level 7. They're going to be able to put the pressure on. What more can you ask for with a Garden Terror this early? Having Sylvanas on your side. They're going to run in, and I'm really curious to see how much they're going to be able to do. They're grabbing a Siege Camp in the meantime. Denial right now, despite the fact that Astral was able to get a 1-for-1 trade, they're in a really good spot.
Yeah, so slight experience lead on the side of Denial, but that could change rapidly, as you mentioned. Kerrigan going to be the one jumping in there. K1 Pro following, so Sylvanas will be able to either split push or enable that Plant Terror to do monstrous damage. Obviously, with the Overgrowth being an option, you don't necessarily need Prismat to be there on Sylvanas with the Terror. Just amplify that with the Giants and everyone else pushing in the bottom.
Well, we wondered if Nature's Culling was going to be picked up. It was picked up by Lunara, so look for that extra damage, especially for the wave clear. But as you called it, Jake, Sylvanas pushing with that siege camp they just picked up. They are destroying structures right now.
Now, what's really good is Nature's Culling is going to be a great response in the mid lane. Lunara is going toe-to-toe with that Plant Terror, actually more or less nullifying it. But the bottom lane, big damage going in. APM is down to just 99 HP, trying to stay alive. But the Feral Lunge of Chimera picks up the kill. Gladius, very low knees, be cautious of the damage of K1 Pro, but the orb only hitting on battery. And the Plant Terror still standing strong for another few seconds here in the mid, actually chasing Lunara away. Has about 1 HP left, can't quite find him with the Queen's Curse, but Glaurung, still with 20 seconds, going to try to continue being a threat here in the mid lane.
Just any advantage you can get there. As you can see, double polymorph as they walk right through it. Nice zoning there by Glaurung, recognizing it's time to back out, regroup, but they got a little bit of structure damage in on the bottom. Astral Authority, they desperately needed that pick, and I think that allows them to neutralize a lot of the early advantage that Denial has grabbed themselves.
Yeah, and all things considered, I mean, they don't necessarily have a big experience lead. It's rather close here. Denial, you know, just up about a quarter level. And 75 gems or seeds already picked up here on the side of Astral. So once the second night phase does arise, which is going to be pretty soon, they'll be sitting in a great spot to grab themselves a Plant Terror.
Well, the guys earlier, when they were talking about the analysis of the draft, they wondered, is it going to be more of a poke comp? And one of the things that we see coming out from Greymane is Quicksilver Bullets at level 7, which gives him that extra range in his human form. So look for him to stay back, but Battery once again in a compromised position, this time getting away.
Alrighty, the final towers here on the front line of Astral will fall very quickly, enabling level 10 to be grabbed here, which is giving that talent here advantage. Heroic talents on top of that, and this is going to force Astral to play very passively. They could look for a flank, but it's always a risky thing to do. They're just going to look to capitalize elsewhere and sacrifice his mid lane as they're soaking for level 10. This is tough. I mean, Wailing Arrow, they have the hard engage. Kerrigan becomes much more of a threat. Disintegrate behind that. I mean, you think Kerrigan, the whole idea of her combo is to clump people up. That paired with Li Ming is going to be so dangerous here, and Keith Tower's even going to fall.
Guys, let's grab a camp and push with Sylvanas. No big deal, right? I mean, that just seems to be the name of the game right now. Eventually, they're going to be pushing in so far, but level 10 picked up. Battery trying to isolate. We are seeing Leaping Strike as it has come out, as Sanctification is now used as well as Divine Shield, and the pressure is on.
All right, so Glaurung had to pop Maelstrom immediately. The Sanctification denied a lot of the value of that, which forced out the Divine Shield, and Glaurung gets picked. But a big Wailing on 3 targets in the bottom, and K1 Pro looking for the kills. Ancestral, unfortunately, though, going to top off trees as they re-engage, and K1 Pro is secluded with no chance of survival, but Frozen X went down to just 12 hit points. In the top, we do see Battery falling on Tiro, but the explosion can do a ton of damage on Prismat. Chimera looking for the Feral Lunge. Can he get it? Yes, he picks up the kill. Right now, it's 2v2 in the top, and it's Denial that's in a bad spot. APM has no mana left and will end up falling. Only King Caffeine remaining. Glaurung has respawned, but a great fight from Astral Authority.
Greymane is making plays, and that is the threat that you have. The minute the Ancestral came out, they turned around, they engaged, they were able to catch them off, and now they're going to rotate up to start grabbing seeds and try and get their first here. And you can see they're doing this in multiple areas, especially when you have Lunara with the Nature's Culling, just soaking those up very, very quickly.
You're going to have a nice big advantage. They need to be careful not to split too much. It looks like it's going to be decided for Denial to go to the top part of the map. They will find trees, but he's going to have Eyes in the Dark. We'll be able to get away from this nice totem placement. But actually, the Power Slide in the combo of Glaurung actually going to cliff just at the edge, and they do end up finding trees. A nice pick off, but Lunara's been working on that bottom Plant Terror. Has Teal around the corner. They do have their own Terror that just summoned here in the bottom lane. So even though they lost trees, it's not the biggest of deals. They have a lot of time left.
I feel like it's a little bit backwards. Lunara was supposed to be the poke, and Greymane was supposed to be the dive-in, but he went with the extra range there. So a little bit different strategy. You can see they got a little bit greedy with Greymane, and now Battery, he's going to have to be careful. The Eldruin's Might over lends him to a safe position. This is going to be a lot of seeds, but it's not going to be enough. There's not going to be on the board, but it does lend to the advantage next time around.
Too shy of having a Plant Terror. That hurts, but, you know, they're just going to have to defend the best they can. Now, remember, Lunara does have Leaping Strike in the situation that's going to give her a lot of different mobility options in these fights. We do see the Plant Terror just kind of roaming around the top part of the map. They're just trying to play, you know, runaway. Just keep Denial rotating towards them. Denial's trying to find Bankery. Druid's Might should be available for over the wall. Barely getting away. We do see Disintegrate going through, and Prismat expected this, but just barely gets the kill with the Shadow Dagger. So very, very good call there from Prismat going over the wall ahead of time.
That was a beautiful call, and now they're going to follow up and try and take down that Terran. Gladius, as you can see, he is under all kinds of pressure, and the minute they take this down, look for them to try and follow up on this. The power slide in. This is going to be tough for Gladius to get out.
Everything about that was just perfectly done by Denial. That Queen's Curse looked like it did nothing to them. They just used the Ravage to go forward with Glaurung, the power slide forward to stop the Plant Terror in its tracks, and they clean it up before it can do a whole lot. The final 2 forts, however, on the side of Denial are incredibly low.
They are, but we see Denial turning that around, getting a couple picks that they needed. They're going to rotate and get camps on the side of Astral. This is very reminiscent of what we saw earlier in a game, is the fact that they were able to get a camp on their side and push in.
I love this call. I mean, I was going to say this game is looking pretty darn even overall, but by taking out, I mean, they already have basically a keep tower down. By eliminating another keep tower, that's so much experience they're picking up. The last tower will go down here, and they're setting themselves up to have a lot of aggressive options in the late game.
Sonya, a little bit behind on the party here, so Astral Authority just jockeying for position, trying to body them off, but the damage is done.
Okay, no, they're going to be okay. Alduran's about to engage, but I think it's a little bit too late. The Ancient Spear going forward onto Glaurung, who then dives for it, actually gets caught into the Leaping Strike of Frozen X and puts him in an odd spot. So that Leaping Strike really working out in an unorthodox way for Frozen X.
I mean, that is the power of Leaping Strike. We talked about the damage before, and it does so much more now. And the aggression coming out when you have Greymane, and they're just hitting that back line. Jake, right before that started, you said, wait a minute, they're split. And the Astral Authority capitalized on that, forced the split even harder, and now look, they're pushing in. They have Siege Giants of their own. They don't have Sylvanas, but they've got a heck of a lot of damage. They're pushing in. This could be a keep.
I love that bait. I mean, I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm going to give them the credit because Glaurung is such a critical element for their fights here. The Mosh Pit just trying to buy some time, but the Sanctification saying, leave us alone, as the first keep of the game will be going the way of Astral Authority.
Enough poison damage to take it down, and just like that, we're talking about Denial going to the top, but Tree's in a lot of trouble. As you can see, the orb is going to manage to hit, but the magic missiles just barely missed.
Oh, just, you know, the parting of the sea. They went around him, they tickled his fur, but not quite doing the damage. Greymane slips on out. Now remember, this is still a slight seed advantage for the side of Denial. Denial has lost a lot of ground, though. 16 now being picked up for Astral Authority, and Denial, they're the ones that now have to play safe.
You know, one of the cool things that we see from Lunara is her level 13 Greater Spell Shield. Remember, that's a 3-second, damage reduction. And we talked about the follow-up between a Kerrigan, between a Li Ming. That's going to help Frozen X stay alive on that Lunara to make the plays. So I'm curious if they're going to recognize that and if they're going to prioritize their targets a little bit differently. So I love that pickup there from Lunara, as well as Sonya's Spell Shield at 13.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be very nice here having that Greater Spell Shield, but I don't even know if they need it. They're so far ahead at this point with Denial just having to play chicken. They're going to have to give up this free Plant Terror here in the bottom. They will maintain their seed advantage just slightly, as they will have theirs as well. Finishing this guy off before Astral Authority can get up to the top lane. But Astral, I'd like to see them try to get soaked somewhere. They're very close to level 16. Once they have 16, they're going to be able to fight. We're just going to have to see a lot of restraint out of Glaurung. Suddenly, using Ravage on Lunara is a huge risk.
It definitely is, and we're going to see both Terrors picked up at the exact same time. The camp at the bottom going to have to be cleaned up. As you can see, Sylvanas and Li Ming were rotating down there on the minimap, but the push is going to be here in the middle. Are you surprised by the position? They already took down the bottom keep. It looks like they're going to take a detour, though.
They're just trying to force that Planter into an odd spot. I think Gladius is going to be able to get himself a great position here in the bottom, and they have that concave to force everyone into a weird spot. APM all by himself, and forcing King Caffeine down. That Queen's Curse in a great spot, denying Frozen X his positioning. But again, Frozen X is going to be very hard to lock down considering the Leaping Strike. But that's got to be the goal here of everyone. Find that Lunara, destroy her if at all possible. Big damage going in onto Battery. The Shrink Rate has even been spent, but they cannot follow up. The Planetary gets no one with the Queen's Curse. They do keep the keep alive, but a great disengage on the side of Astral Authority.
And things are just working out very good. The minute things get a little bit tough, Astral seems to be turning it around. We still are looking at 9 to 8 kills, but look at the rotation coming in from ETC.
Looking for a big power slide. If he can get the kills, no, not quite.
Wow.
Only clipping Gladius, who's going to be able to wander away. Actually, his Planetary is going to live longer than the one there of Glaurung. So Glaurung is now the one retreating from the fight. The orb does explode it, but that's just going to bring Sonya back out into the thick of things.
That was pretty nice holy ground there.
Yeah, I mean,
as he denied the power slide in, and I'm not sure if we would have seen a mosh pit, but man, lack of faith in Astral. I think some of these people might be regretting their vote here using hashtag HGC.
It's still any man's game, but Astral sitting in a good spot. Structurally, they've taken out a keep. They're still holding on to a fort, and they do have almost a level advantage at this point in time. Denial are going to have to make a big team fight happen. They just lost that one fight, and that's what put them behind.
They just haven't been able to get the early amount of pressure. I mean, it's good that they had so much early pressure from Sylvanas. You can get the top lane pushed in, but now all of a sudden you have to go really deep to get to that keep. And it's not the same type of aggression, but look at the invasion.
The Wisp gives them so much coverage. Claudius is hanging out in this bush to make sure his eye's on, and it's the same exact attempt from the bottom. Now, considering the fact that Sylvanas hasn't been scouted, they just saw that camp be picked up, they know that their gamble here has not paid off, and they're going to be the ones that take way more damage than Astral Authority.
They force Sylvanas to back off of that, and that's allowing them. They have two camps pushing in the top, and Lunara, the poison damage going in. You can have that fort all you want. We're going to go for this keep. If not, we're going to force you to back, and that's exactly what they did.
I mean, King Caffeine just had this, power slide to safety. That's the last thing you want to have happen. Glowring's diving forward, but again, there's no power slide. He's holding onto the combo as long as possible. Hammer just comes out, they force a sank. If they can back up, buy some time, great. But we do see the big damage coming in, the mosh pit locking them forward. The Ancestral just moments too late, and this is the fight that Denial needs. Keeping everyone alive, the resets there. Frozenek's gonna be able to retreat, but it's still a 3-0.
Windrunner is there for Prismat. He's being so aggressive with the dive in by Glaurung. That extra range, it did so much. And this is 4 members down. They have Sylvanas. Remember, they opened up the door in the top lane. They seem to be rotating. There's 30 seconds left before most of these heroes are up. They might just be going through the middle. This could be game change.
Chimera has to be so careful. He's trying to just buy time, bait them out to do something risky, but the keep will go down here. And if Chimera isn't careful, they can just turn and blow him up, stagger the depths even more. So it looks like they're going to look for the core. 15 seconds till everyone's up, ignoring Dark Chimera, going in straight for the core. Can they finish it all out here? 7 seconds on Tyrael. I don't think they can stop this, J-Howe.
90%, it is going down. The damage is real, but on the backside, we have the camp on the other side, 50%. I don't know if this is going to survive. Denial going in 30%. So much damage is out. 15%. This is going to be Astral Authority going down. Denial able to take it and move on.
The catapults, the giant camp, that mid lane made that dangerous. Dark Chimera stalled as long as humanly possible, but Denial with one team fight, a clean, concise fight, a nice engage from Glaurung. They clutch it out in a dangerously close series.
King Caffeine looks extremely relieved there as he put his head in his hand and like, wow, that was one heck of a series. And that is what we just got there, Jake.
I mean, it all just came down to a few mistakes, a few steps forward, the snap call to go back, a little bit over-aggressive from Astral, thinking they could just go and end it all there, find the mistake. And I was actually a bit worried. We saw Glaurung ravage in after ETC. King Caffeine had just power slid away from the fight. I was like, oh no. But unfortunately for them, ETC got back in. He landed that mosh pit and secured the victory there.
It was almost like fool's gold. It's like we've got a siege camp, we've got a bruiser camp, and we're pushing in. We see that Sylvanas is in that bottom lane. Let's just go all in, boys. We just took their camp, but the minute Sylvanas comes in, she locks down a lot of that potential damage that could be coming out, and that was a huge moment.
Well, let's take a look at some of these early fights. You see that big wailing arrow in the bottom, enabling everyone here on the side of Denial to get the picks, but Greymane gets that ancestral heal in the bottom, and that's when he goes to town. Leaping strikes, getting Lunara away with 26 hit points. A fight that looked like it easily should have been going in the favor of Denial. But unfortunately, there's just great coverage, great response, a few clutch saves there for Astral Authority, and they got the better end of this.
Yeah, Chimera made a lot of plays. You can see that totem going down there, but this was another fight where Frozenek is on that backside, and it just did so much damage. APM in the middle, Glaurung in the middle.
That's when Glaurung got pulled into the Leaping Strike too, and that's really where the game looked like it went the way of Astral Authority. But this one last final fight, the mosh pit.
The mosh pit was solid, but man, that was one heck of a game. And now I want to hear what TJ has to ask from King Caffeine, who he's got there for an interview.
Thanks very much, guys. That's right. I'm joined by King Caffeine from Denial eSports, and I just want to get a couple quick questions with you after that intense win. First off, are you getting tired of playing ETC?
Yeah, kind of, but he's such an impactful hero. I mean, if I can get him, I'll take him.
Yeah, you had some really good moshes in Game 1. You had that epic turnaround, and also in Game 3 there as well. I want to go to Game 2 real quick and talk about the Kerosene pick. I know APM likes to play that a lot, and it's more of an aggressive support pick, but what was the mindset going into the Kerosene pick in that draft?
The Karazim pick was actually more for sustain. We just wanted to be able to just punch the minions, heal off of them, because they had a lot of poke. They're a poke-centric comp. But then they really surprised us with the Rexar, giving them a lot of CC lockdown. So we ended up getting wrecked, yeah.
Now, you said they surprised you with the Rexar. Was that like something that threw you guys off going into the draft? Was it something that you didn't know how to deal with in game? How did the Rexar affect that game overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not what we were expecting at all. No team in NA has run that. So, and they last picked it, so we didn't have any chance to counter it. It was just all around a really solid draft by them.
Yeah, it ended up working out for them. They made it a really close series. So you guys have Murloc Geniuses up next, which you guys lost to Murloc Geniuses earlier on in the day. How are you feeling going into that match? Do you have momentum on your side after winning this series? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think our first series was really shaky. It's our first event together as a team. The communication wasn't really great, but after these last couple sets, everyone kind of got a little bit more comfortable and started making plays. So I think we got it.
All right, well, good luck, man. I'll let you go prepare for that. But in the meantime, guys, we're going to have to go to a quick break. But when we come back, the final match of the day, the decider match. Don't go anywhere. More heroes right after this.
Qualifying for BlizzCon is of the utmost importance to my team. And I've been to the last two with K1 Pro and Cloud9. We were able to win the last one. And we really, really, really want a repeat of that.
Winning this tournament is really important for Team Denial because we're a new team. We have some fresh blood. Prismat and Matre, I think they have tons of potential. And then, of course, K1 and Calf on Cloud9, they won a lot of stuff. I think this roster is a pretty good balance of new blood and old blood, and I'm excited to see what we can do.
As soon as Cloud9 disbanded, K1 Pro and I were looking for teams. We got a few offers from a bunch of different teams, and we decided, it might just be better to make a team. So we tried out about 12 to 15 players over a 2-week period of time, and we ended up coming out with the best 3 there were: Cloudrung, Prismaticism, and APM.
The opportunity to play with 2 world champions and try out other fresh blood to sort of make like a super team, I didn't want to pass up that opportunity.
We've only been a team for a little under a month, so we still do have some issues working on communication, and our synergy definitely isn't 100% there. Honestly, right now, I would say of our potential, we're probably at around 60%. I still think it's enough to take North America, but I think we have a lot of work to do before BlizzCon.
I'm a player who thrives off energy at live events. There's nothing like playing on stage. You can feel the energy of your teammates, and you have so much energy right in that moment. As long as I don't get carried away, I feel like I play better in that environment, and I'm excited to see what we can do on Denial.
The entire reason we formed this team was to make it to BlizzCon and to win the whole thing. If we didn't make it to BlizzCon, it would be a soul-crushing moment, I guess, for all of us.